Hello racing fans, this is NASCAR Racing Fan 2015, and once again we have another young top prospect in NASCAR making his Cup Series debut, as Daniel Hemric will be driving the number 8 Smoky Mountain Herbo Moistnuff Chevrolet Camaro ZL1 for Richard Childress Racing. He will race at the Richmond Raceway for the Toyota Owners 400, and he is hoping to tear it up under the lights this weekend. So first off, we're going to get into Daniel Hemric and his career. So anyways, it all started in 2016 when he drove the number 19 Ford F-150 for BK Racing. And by that, I mean Brad Keselowski Racing, not bankrupt racing. Even though, in a couple years they went out of business. Anyways, he did fairly well that season. Heavily outshadowed by William Byron because he won like 7 races that season. But he didn't do horrible either. He made the playoffs. He got eliminated in the first round, but that was because of a couple bad instances, some bad luck, and his consistency was really what made him a good driver. He should have won a race probably, but it's just he had a solid season, a solid debut season in the Truck Series. And then in 2017, he decides to move on from BK Racing and goes to Richard Childress Racing. And as we all know, they have a legacy of terrible young prospects. So finally, Richard Childress Racing has a good prospect for once, and we're going to see how Daniel Hemric does. So in his first season with the team, in the number 21 car, he posts some pretty consistent stats. And now, of course, he was outperformed by William Byron as he won 4 races in a championship. But at the same time, Daniel Hemric didn't have a bad season either. He made the Xfinity playoffs and went all the way to the championship 4. And he had the best car out of those 4 competitors until he had some issues and he went a couple laps down. And that was the end of his championship run. The sad thing, however, he did not win a race. But yet at the same time, just imagine if we had taken out some of those Cup guys in Xfinity. He should have at least 1, 2, 3 races, 3 wins by now. But no, Kyle Busch has to run. Joey Logano and Brad Keselowski and Ryan Blaney and Kevin Harvick. Yeah, they all need more experience. Totally, they do need more experience. So anyways, never got a win. And in 2018, he's having a consistent start. He got South Point sponsorship because Brendan Gaughan retired. So finally, a good sponsor-driver pairing for Richard Childress Racing. He made the Dash for Cash, I believe, at Bristol. And, he was up at the front. He led a couple laps, but what do you know? He just got kind of mired in the back and couldn't get back up to the front. But he's been fairly consistent. He should be a winner by now. I just still can't believe Dillon has more wins than him in the Xfinity Series, but whatever. Honestly, what do I think about Daniel Hemric getting his shot in the Cup Series? Honestly, I am pretty thrilled. As like I said, Daniel Hemric is really consistent. And just finally, there is something good about Richard Childress Racing. Let's look at all their prospects once again. You had Tim George Jr. and his Applebee's sponsorship that got him absolutely nowhere. You had John West Townley and his Zaxby's sponsorship. John Rex Weekly, he got absolutely nowhere. They pulled him, like I said, they pulled him after like 5, 7 races because he was such a bad driver. And yet, he stuck around for the next couple years and won a fuel mileage race. You had Brian Scott and his Shore Lodge sponsorship. And guess what? He tore up way too many cars for that team, and he never even won a race for that team. You had Brian Scott and his Shore Lodge sponsorship. Oh my gosh, he tore up so many cars, and guess what? Out of all that, he never won a race for the team. Everyone's like, oh, Brian Scott's getting better. He's going to be good. Yeah, he never won a race. His best race was Daytona in 2015, and guess what? He cuts down in front of Elliott Sadler and wrecks himself. That was his best race. And you had Brandon Jones and his Ream sponsorship because J.R. Jones is his daddy and he's going to fund his car. Yeah, the Silver Spoon Ream boy did nothing besides make the 2016 playoffs. Yeah, 3 top 10s last year, and he was like 18th in points. Absolutely great stats. And then we have Matt Tifft, and the only reason why he is here is probably because he has brain tumors, and there's that whole thing with sponsorship from Tunity and some of the medical companies. Now, don't get me wrong, Matt Tifft is an absolutely awful. I mean, he could be a good driver for Starcom Racing or BK Racing, but on Richard Children's Racing, on Joe Gibbs Racing, look what he did. He never got a win for the team. He had gotten a lot of spins and crashes, and he somehow lucked his way into the round of 8 in Joe Gibbs Racing equipment. Yeah, and then meanwhile, Daniel Suarez the year before won the championship. Yeah, that's absolutely great for Matt Tifft. And then we get on to the Dillon brothers, and this is probably the controversial part of the video. So Austin Dillon, in my opinion, he's earned his ride in the Cup Series. He won the Truck Series championship in 2011. He won the Nationwide championship in 2013. He went into the Cup Series. The first couple of years, he wasn't that good. But then 2016, he had a really good year. He was really, really consistent. And that was what made that team. That was their strength, is that he would consistently put himself in a good position. He almost made it to the round of 8 a couple of years ago. Yeah, we totally forget that. And then we go to 2017 and 2018. Basically, they're both the same thing. So he has about average 15th to 20th car most of the season, and he gets a lucky win. The Coke 600 in 2017. Yeah, lucky fuel mileage win for Austin Dillon. And what do you know? He gets locked into the playoffs instantly, even though he was struggling to make the top 20 in points. And this season, it doesn't even matter what he does the rest of the season because he had that legendary move on Eric Almirola that immediately put him into the playoffs without even running the rest of the 25 races. And what do you know? This year's probably going to be another round of 16 exit where he isn't even close to making it. And then we have Ty Dillon. Oh boy. And now I know there have been some YouTubers that have been called out by Ty Dillon because he is such a thin-skinned person. He cannot take criticism whatsoever. And so he's got to call people out. And, he's a one-sided person. It's got to be instantly about him or, the whole argument's off. But anyways, this is something Ty Dillon cannot deny. He has done next to nothing in the Xfinity Series and the Cup Series. Let's look at 2014. He's a rookie in that season. Oh, yeah, wins 1 nationwide race. Yeah, great job, Ty. It was Indianapolis. There's one good thing about his career. And then over the next couple years, he became a one-hit wonder in the Xfinity Series. Let's look at how that backed up. 2014, he was like 3rd in points. And, he was close to beating Chase Elliott. But, he just wasn't that good. Anyways, 2015 will be a bigger year for Ty Dillon. 2015, he is absolutely average. And what do you know? Chris Buescher, of all people, wins the championship. Yeah, out of all the things, Chris Buescher just goes right up and take it. Chase Elliott has a very mediocre to average season, and Ty Dillon does next to nothing with it. Oh, yeah, and guess what? Still 0 wins. 0 wins in 2015. So absolutely great job that season, Ty. And then we head on to 2016, and what do you know? He doesn't even make it to the second round of the Xfinity Series playoffs. Ty Dillon gets eliminated to Brendan Gaughan, Ryan Reed, and Blake Cook. Yeah, those 3 drivers are absolutely mediocre, and yet he finds a way to get eliminated by them. I mean, sure, he had a bunch of bad luck, like getting wrecked at Kentucky and 2 mediocre results. But guess what? Eric Jones had an absolutely awful round in that round of the playoffs. And guess what? He still advanced. That just shows how bad he was. And guess what that season also? 0 wins. Did not get a single win. Nice job, Ty Dillon. Great job. And with all of that, guess what? He gets promoted to Germain Racing in the 13 car. Yeah, of course, Ty Dillon. He's done next to nothing. And guess what? He immediately gets to move on to the next level because of RC, being his father and wanting to promote him to the next level. Let's look at Ty Dillon this year and last year. Oh, what? There was one time he stayed out and led a couple laps and was supposed to get a top 5. And then what do you know? He gets wrecked. And then the rest of the season, he doesn't even come close to getting a top 10 finish for the rest of that time. Bravo, Ty Dillon. Even Casey Mears got a couple top 10s. Yeah, great job. And guess what? He has done absolutely awful this season. Oh yeah, he's like 27th in points. There's a couple times he's gotten outperformed by what? A couple other start and park teams. There's probably some time where a Starcom racing car was probably beating him on the racetrack. Yeah, that driver carousel with Jeffrey Earnhardt, Joey Gase, and Landon Castle has beat him a couple times. Oh yeah, and Ty Dillon, he's just supposed to be this great driver. And we're just supposed to praise him. And like I said, there is absolutely no reason that Ty Dillon should call me out for doing this video. No reason whatsoever. He has done next to nothing in this series. And if he starts doing good one time, if he gets a top 10, top 5, then good for him. But I just don't see it with him. I mean, he just instantly got promoted for doing next to nothing. And unless he can prove me wrong, which I highly doubt, he doesn't deserve his ride. That's just my opinion. Look at Ryan Preece. Yeah, look at him. He's worked absolutely hard to get his one opportunity at Joe Gibbs Racing. And yet he still can't get a full-time ride. And yet you have a full-time Cup Series ride and one nationwide series win. Meanwhile, like I said, Ryan Preece has 2 and can't get a full-time Xfinity ride. Makes total sense. So anyways, this video is on Daniel Hemric, and so we're going to get onto the ride itself. He is going to be driving a 3rd Richard Children's Racing entry. The number 8 car is coming back. Now, the last time this car was driven in Cup, it was driven by Eric Almirola in the legendary Guitar Hero Chevrolet Impala. Actually, that was not the most legendary ride. The ride everyone knows about is Dale Earnhardt Jr. I mean, say what you want. Dale Earnhardt Jr., never won a championship. He was just a kind of good, decent driver, you could say. I mean, he had 26 wins, but, he just never lived up to his father. But at the same time, you can't deny that the Bud number 8 car is iconic. I mean, you just look at it, that paint scheme, almost any fan recognizes it. They say, oh yeah, red number 8, Dale Earnhardt Jr. I mean, nowadays, you don't see that very often with any drivers in the Cup Series. Maybe Jimmy Johnson and Lowe's. But what do you know? Lowe's is leaving after this year. So basically, all the dynasties are basically gone. A lot of the cars now have different paint schemes every week, and it gets ridiculous. So basically, Daniel Hemric, yeah, he's going to drive the number 8 car. And so you guys might be asking, why would Richard Children's Racing bring up the 8 car? Why would they choose this number? You had the number 27. You had the number 33. Why are they going with the 8? The answer, money and desperation. There's probably a couple Dale Jr. fans wandering around, Dale Sr. fans to see, oh, wow, the number 8's back on the track. Oh, yeah, we're going to cash in on this. Oh, boy, Daniel Hemric. Now, of course, a lot of Dale Jr. fans have left, and they're probably rooting for Alex Bowman or Chase Elliott or Bubba Wallace or something like that. But at the same time, the number 8 on the track, I mean, it's such an iconic number. When Chase Elliott brought back the 9, I'm sure a lot of Bill Elliott fans gain interest. I mean, Richard Children's Racing is basically doing this to try to cash in on those fans. They're trying to create a brand. They're trying to create a legacy or extend a legacy that has been so famous because of Dale Earnhardt Jr. And of course, DEI closed down, so technically they can use the number 8. Now, they can't use the number 8 font because, as you guys all know, Teresa Earnhardt is known as NASCAR's Wicked Witch of the West, and she has to basically own everything in licensing and stuff like that because she ran DEI into the ground. So basically, yeah, that's wonderful. They can't use the same font. So we get this ugly number 8 font. It looks absolutely awful, but whatever. So number 8's coming back. It's because of merchandising. You know, Richard Children's Racing, they're just trying to cash in on that legacy. The legacy of Austin Dillon and with Dale Earnhardt and stuff like that. And then they're doing the same with Daniel Hemric and the legacy of Dale Jr. This is the same thing that's plaguing Hemric Motorsports. They're cashing in on the legacy with Chase Elliott and, you know, Bill Elliott. Same with William Byron. That's the reason why you see the Exalta car back on track. And then the 88 nationwide. I mean, I'm surprised there haven't been more Dale Jr. vibes with Alex Bowman. It seems like it's like a totally different car now. That's the one good thing. But, you know, the number 9, the number 24, they are trying so hard to get fans for that. And you could say that with Wood Brothers Racing and, you know, Handshake Away, Richard Petty Motorsports, they try to do that as well. Just go back on your previous success. Don't try to do anything in the present like a lot of the teams. Just go back to the past. Pretend you're back in the 1980s or 1990s winning a bunch of races and championships. Meanwhile, nowadays, those teams are struggling to crack the top 15, except maybe 2 Hemric cars per week. Yeah, absolutely wonderful. And now the sponsorship for his car is Smoky Mountain Herbal Moist Snuff. Which, yeah, I mean, it gets confused kind of with Smoky Mountain Barbecue or something like that from KFC. But anyways, I mean, this is a very interesting sponsor. Now, I did my research. They're like a chewing thing. It's like chewing gum, except it's like some tobacco vibe or something, except it doesn't have like the deadly poisons in it or something like that. Because I thought it was basically like chewing a cigarette or something, like chewing tobacco, stuff like that. Like I thought it was still harmful. And you know, nowadays, cigarette companies, you know, Winston, RJ Meyer or something like that, they were banned from sponsoring anything. They have to fund anti-cigarette ads. And you'll learn this in DARE or something like that. You'll learn this in those programs taught by the police if you're in junior high or something about smoking or in a health class. But anyways, yeah, you know, the smoking industry, they're spending money to fund anti-smoking industries because, you know, it's so harmful. So I was wondering, why is Smoky Mountain, why are they getting a free pass? And it's because, you know, it's deemed not harmful. So possibly they could become a primary sponsor for Daniel Hemric possibly in the future. And, you know, he also has like South Point and what else? A couple other sponsors from the Xfinity Series. If they do bring this team up to the Cup Series, there's going to be a lot of unsponsored races. So Daniel Hemric's probably going to need to have a good Xfinity Series season if he wants to get this ride. And then, of course, the other thing, do really good. I think a good day for Daniel Hemric would be to get maybe a top 15 to top 20 finish. Do really well. Let's look at Cole Custer making his first start earlier this year. He was in the 51 car for Rick Ware Racing. And guess what? He beat William Byron in Hemric Motorsports equipment. I am never going to forget this. Cole Custer running an absolute dumpster fire of a team. Yeah, Rick Ware Racing and Cole Custer, a team that said Ray Black Jr. was going to be their driver for 2018 before they signed a contract. And what do you know? Then somehow he backs out of the deal. So basically, I just wasted a video that one weekend talking about nothing. Thanks a lot. But anyways, yeah, that awful team beat William Byron and Hemric Motorsports equipment. And like, it wasn't even close. He was like 2-3 laps down, and William Byron was 4 laps down. There weren't any like pit issues or anything for William Byron. It was just pure speed, and he gets beat by Cole Custer at Rick Ware Racing. So honestly, my bold prediction for this race is he will beat William Byron. Now, don't get me wrong. William Byron is doing okay in that car, you know. I kind of think he should be doing a little bit better, like Bristol. He was in the top 10, and then he fades back to 18th or 19th by the end of the race. A classic number 5 team run. And, man, that was kind of a disappointment. But at the same time, he hasn't crashed a lot. He's just been, you know, kind of average. But anyways, that's my prediction. Daniel Hemric, I think he's going to run like 17th. That's my prediction. He's going to do fairly decent in his first start, and he's going to certainly impress a couple people in the garage. And also with this announcement, he is going to run the Charlotte Roval, and that'll be an interesting race, especially with a rookie driver running his second ever race at a track that's now really completely new. It's a new configuration, so that'll be interesting. But to wrap it all up, where do I see this going? Like, why are they doing this start? Honestly, what I think is going to happen is Daniel Hemric's going to run a couple races this season and maybe next season. And then by 2020, I believe he will be in the 13 car for Germain Racing. Now, you guys might be thinking, oh, that means Ty Dillon's definitely going to be out of a ride. Absolutely not. My prediction is he will go to the 31 car after Ryan Newman retires. It's almost a given because Bass Pro Shops has ties with Richard Childress and the Dillon brothers. So I have a feeling they're just going to pick Ty Dillon as their driver. He's going to prove absolutely nothing in 2018 and 2019 and get promoted to the 31. And you know, Richard Children's Racing, they're going to cash in. Oh, yeah, we're the family team. We have Austin Dillon and Ty Dillon. You know they're going to cash in on that. And now you also know Richard Children's Racing is too cheap to field another car, so they will probably just stick him in the 13. So honestly, that's what's going to happen. Now, like I said, I would like for them to prove me wrong. I mean, I would like to see them try to do something. I like to see Austin Dillon surprise, win a couple more races, make the round of 8. I don't have anything really against that team. It's just the decisions they make. The fact that they pick all these rich brats that earn nothing and, you know, they just aren't relevant anymore. But we'll just have to see in the future. So Richard Childress, if you're watching this, listen closely. Daniel Hemric is a good driver. You should put him in the Cup Series. He will get you a decent finish. He will probably get you to the playoffs, maybe the championship 4 a couple times. Put him in the 31. Get rid of washed up Ryan Newman and build up around this kid. That would be my dream scenario. But I know you guys won't do it. You guys are going to cash in on something. Please prove me wrong. Daniel Hemric is a good talent. I'm glad to see him driving the number 8 car, and I hope somebody can follow through and give this kid his big break.